Hello, agus fáilte go trí seascad an programme BBC Alba ha cúr frosbegur cúiscin na Boranich agus scílachcin igantach an sùil spórs na Halba. Is mis Iona Ballantyne agus mí tolíteach go bhfuil Ceannard Ball-Coise an ban ag an SFA Fiona Nic colorrooms in studio. Our program na heiche noch. Bheir mi hín is Fiona sùil seachcin mhòr san skipan an ban ag Alba si at de tòiseachadh immers cúpan na Cruine fóstúr manager úracha Pedro Martínez Losa. Clúna sin cúteach fó skipan na Halba fa is seachtíag thoiseach na gemcin dearbhaidh achcha son na Euros. Agus is dé a henna macúri cúnand ag Hibs ha Lucy Ronald a bhreunú trí seascad mun éasad éiche rás go Glasgow women. Fiona, welcome back to 360.
Thanks for having me back again.
Well, it's all go. There has been so much happening since we last had you on last season. Before we get to all the Scotland stuff, can I just ask you, how much are you enjoying the league being back?
It's brilliant, isn't it? I watched the Glasgow City Celtic game at the weekend and it was such a good advert for our game, wasn't it? It's just nice to be speaking about football and a bit less about COVID and COVID protocols, so it's brilliant just to have everyone back playing.
And even that Glasgow City Celtic game, we're only the second game into the season and it's already throwing up results that maybe people didn't expect.
I think the way the league's shaping up this year, there's a number of teams that can beat each other, and that's what you want for your top league. You want it to be competitive and have that uncertainty of outcome going into every game, and I think that's what we've got. Certainly if you look at the top half of the table, there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that can certainly beat each other. But even the teams that have come up, like Aberdeen, they were competitive against Celtic the week before as well. So I think it's shaping up to be a really exciting season.
Absolutely, it'll be interesting to see who finishes up in the top half of the table and in the bottom half too, because I suppose anything could happen like we've seen. But let's go on to Scotland because it's a huge week coming up. World Cup qualification. How important is this for Scotland?
It's really important. I think when you go into any new campaign, you've got that bit of excitement and anticipation, and we're really looking forward to going into this new campaign. But it probably does feel like the start of a new era, not just because it's a new campaign. We've got a new manager in, we've got a new home at Hampden, so more than ever we're really looking forward to this campaign, and it is really important. We've seen the impact of what happens when the women's national team's successful and gets to tournaments. We see how it impacts all parts of the game in terms of participation numbers go up, visibility of the game grows, so it's really important that the team gets off to a good start, and we're obviously aiming to get ourselves to the World Cup.
Well, these are all things that you've been working on with the strategy which has just been released. Can you tell us a bit more about that and actually your plan for the next few years?
Yeah, so we launched our strategy, which is the first ever strategy for girls and women's football in Scotland. I was actually seconded at the time over to the Scottish FA to help write that. It was a really good process with a lot of the stakeholders of the game involved, including the Scottish FA, Scottish Women's Football and a number of clubs from different parts of the game. So the strategy really lays out our plan for the next 4 years, what it is we want to achieve, and it brings together all the different parts of the game, and there's targets in there around participation but also around the national teams and performance, but also some off the field targets around visibility, which as we know is really important, commercial targets, and also things around representation of girls and women's football within the association.
Are these targets that you know and think you can hit within the years to come?
Oh, definitely. That's why they're in there. That's what my job is now, is to try and drive forward on using these targets as a goal. But absolutely, that's what we think and believe that we're going to achieve in the next 4 years.
Tell us a bit more about some of the targets, because I know you're talking about participation levels. They're currently, well, you want them to be, was it 24,000, 25,000?
25, yeah. Yeah, so at the moment we've got around 17,500 players that are registered and play football regularly in Scotland. We want to get that to a minimum of 25,000. That's one of the targets within that participation strand. But we also know that to do that we need to build the infrastructure around it. So we want to support coaches and volunteers, match officials, and everything that goes around that participation end of the game, because we can't just grow the number of players without growing the infrastructure that supports it around it. So that's a key target for us, and we've launched a number of initiatives, the most recent one being at Disney, our UEFA Playmakers in partnership with Disney, which targets girls at that really young age, sort of 5 to 8 years old. So that's a programme that's trying to get girls engaged for the first time in football, maybe girls that haven't played before or aren't sure if they're interested. So that's one of our sort of new initiatives that's just up and running now, and I think that will help us grow the base. But obviously we'll also want more women to play football. People like myself that maybe used to play but have got family commitments and a job and maybe can't play as regularly. So we're also looking at how we grow that recreational programme for women that just want to go and enjoy and continue to have football in their life.
And it all ties into, or a lot of it can tie into, seeing the success of the Scotland women's national team, which we have seen in recent years. I know there was obviously a slump with COVID when everything kind of stopped for a long time. But now that there is this real chance of World Cup qualification, how important is it for not just the Scotland women's national team, but everything that surrounds it, like you've just been talking about?
It impacts on everything. It's important for our women's national team to be successful because we want to give our elite players and athletes the opportunity to play in the world stage. That first and foremost is why we all want to be at World Cups and European Championships. But the impact is certainly wider than that. We saw after the World Cup what happened in terms of participation. We'd had really steady growth for a long time. After the World Cup, it shot up by about 17% and we saw more girls than ever. I've no doubt the same impact as you'll see on tennis now that we've got a new tennis superstar, and it's using the impact of that World Cup to drive participation. But it also helps us with all the other pillars in our strategy in terms of growing the visibility of the game, helping us increase the commercial revenues that we can put back into the game. So as much as I really want the players to get there because I want them to get that opportunity, it also impacts so much wider on the whole game and all the pillars within our strategy.
And you'll also be following Scotland when they head out to Hungary. I know that'll be exciting for you.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll fly out to Hungary. I'll travel with them. The game's on Friday, so that's obviously our first game, and we really want to get off to a positive start. So yeah, it's good for me to travel and see the environment and just be visible and be around the players and let them know that they've got that support and that connection with the association above and beyond the group that travel. So no, I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll be coming back with a positive result, and that'll make the journey home much more enjoyable.
And you must be looking forward to getting them back to Hampden too?
Yeah, I think we're all really excited about that. The reaction when we announced Hampden, kind of generally wider in terms of the people that are maybe thinking about coming to the game, was one of excitement, but we also saw the players were really excited, and I've said for a long time that Hampden's the home of Scottish football, so it should be the home of the Scottish women's national team. So yeah, it's just a significant milestone in the journey that they can call that their home now, and hopefully we can build that the audience that will regularly want to come to Hampden. They know the games are there, so it makes it easier for people to plan when they're thinking about coming to watch the women's national team.
And also, if they can't make it, anyone around the country, we also know they can watch it on BBC Alba.
Absolutely, of course. As always, the game will be live on BBC Alba, and I think that is really important too, because the games are midweek, and that isn't always ideal for some people that maybe can't travel or they live further afield out with the Central Belt. So it's important that people can still get access and watch the game from the comfort of their living room or their home or wherever it is they're watching it if they can't make it to Hampden. And that's why the partnership with BBC Alba continues to be so important for us.
Brilliant, Fiona. Well, it's a very exciting time. We do look forward to watching it all unfold. Chúla sin Pauline MacDonald bhrein program seo cheana I ggéise chomh dúlaigh sa háirithe bhí cloigear info is 16 a haring còmhla tro am a pandemic. In is go bhfuil an túlach tucail beccan hena cloigear na Jessica son na gamicin Jeremy Yorpach achge. Thug Pauline Corum bhrein dul gan coiad a trena gus feicin cymra ha dul gaibh.
h-Ungair mhòr iddo bhí an van trap na dhéideag a chunig arschote na h-Alba for h-Seach bandiag Pauline Dhòmhnallach leis na cloichtar an aiche. Leis na gemicin Jeremy is an farpers na Ceannard a Ceannard Ball-Coise and a countbichin seo chug cútramach sa bhat Bheir.
I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic to have the players back on the pitch. I worked out this morning, it was 14 months until our last sort of training activity with the youth international team. So having the restart in June and working with the players, you know, on a kind of fortnightly basis up until now, just, you know, for the players, a lot of them hadn't experienced international football before, so sort of bedding down those standards and helping the players to understand where we really want them to be in terms of physically, technically, tactically and their character, as an elite player. We did miss out on a full, we missed out on the 2004, or the second year for the 2004 age group. So, you know, the beginning for us in June was about bringing in the 2005-2006 age group and really just playing squad games, looking at the depth of talent we have and trying to give everybody the best opportunity, you know, to kind of cement a place within that group of 24 we're sort of at just now, which will then obviously reduce to 20 for the qualification phase at the end of this month.
Quicker, still sometimes quicker, but also I still think we can give more information to the players.
Làn-ùine mhòr idir gáil seachad agus cluichead ar an gcúsid suas chun na náide go scipa fo h-Nic Ballantyne. A Pauline idir bhí cud fáilte is feabhain úra agus a teachra caiiche is on a callach an úra.
Enjoy it. I think it's really important. You know, we know that they're talented players, that's why they've been selected, and if you can try and take, you know, maybe the kind of enormity of the occasion away for them, bring in some enjoyment in terms of some of the things that we build into the training sessions that help them relax, then you get the best out of the players. But I would also say that, you know, it's important for everybody within the group to feel part of something and feel that they're valued.
Oh, buzzing, because due to COVID we've not played international games in a while, so it's good to be getting back to it, and obviously my family is super supportive and really excited for me. It's always an honour to be selected for these camps and to represent your country. It feels great, it's good.
I was so excited, especially after COVID again. It's been such a long time coming, and to finally be hopefully playing internationals, it feels great to represent your country, and to just stay at the 17s, it feels extra special. It's good to get back.
A talent it lé ag na cluichead ar an áca seo mar ha, agus ag iad a chlubbe ha cúteach a cluicht don ar chiad skippe. Ag déine it ar jallachíon a bhí ag an dúldais ag iad it an náisianta.
In terms of, I think probably the main difference from the domestic game is when we step up to international football, that athleticism and physicality. So trying to get them to understand, you know, the intensity and the volume of training that they need to be doing on a weekly basis, so that the transition from the domestic game to the international game is a smoother one, and whereby we can actually look to really try and compete against the opponents that we have within the group phase. But I also think that, you know, as a group, trying to form that positive team dynamic and togetherness at every opportunity, and also educate the players about the holistic part of the game and being an elite athlete are all extremely important in their journey.
You can play over, absolutely. We want all that variation like we spoke about yesterday.
Ha Pauline agus an skippe a gulach agus on a cuairt an dearbhaidh son farpa seorpach na ban for h-Seach Ballantyne. Beit a cluiche an álands poblach na Sheich agus Slovenia nas animiche de Vías. Had did a fair crush on an arpa show, agus had Uluk a gen of fewer-dish gamor.
It's really exciting. We were obviously supposed to go to the Netherlands in March 2020. Listen, it's going to be challenging. The setup within UEFA has changed, so we're within an A group category, so we play teams that are pot 1 and pot 2 teams, so that makes it very difficult for us. However, I think, you know, to show the realisation to these players, if they want to be future youth national women's A squad players or make a profession out of this, they're going to need to play up against and do more than the players do down south or over on the continent. So in terms of the lessons that can be learned and the exposure that they're going to get, yeah, it's extremely exciting, and it'll be interesting to hear their thoughts on it.
It's great, yeah. It'll be a good test for us, but you know we've got a really good team and we have great team spirit, and I think we'll go and we'll play and we'll do really well together.
Yeah, obviously they're big teams, big physical teams, so it'll be great to see how we do against them. But I think we've got a great group of players this year, and I think if we keep working hard and play to stick to our game plan, I think we've got a good shot.
It's really important, you know, playing for Scotland is a highlight of your career, and you look up to all these A squad players that have been through the national teams as well.
Like seeing Leanne Crichton and working under her now, it's to see what she's done, and also playing in the World Cup, it just drives you even more, because that's where you want to be in the end.
Remember we spoke last night about putting demands on each other? Good, make it, yes, well done!
Ha tárút an ma tachars tubastay ba cosha international an ban, na Fiona Nic gedurid enimach mar cannot ba cosha an ban. As for h-Ungair chai Pedro Martinez Losa enimach mar manager a friafskippe. Ha Pauline a coite there die a gopet getlú de manager uur. Son taiche chudish en na ginjelach jechliket an ure.
Yeah, no, it's great to have Pedro in. Obviously, the kind of position was vacant for a period of time, and I think now, you know, that now that he's in, we've had some kind of informal conversations, but he has some really good ideas, and you know, obviously his priority at this moment in time is the up and coming qualification game. But really excited to sit down with him and my colleague Pauline Dhòmhnallach as well, and look at, you know, what do we see an elite youth international athlete looking like moving forward. What's Pedro's thoughts on that? Because we can learn from the experiences he's had, obviously both internationally, but over in France and in the club structure that he's worked at down south at Arsenal. But what the important thing is that we work collectively together to give the women's A squad the best chance in the future.
Fiona, the under-17s are finally back after 14 months, and it's so good seeing Pauline back in action. You can see the passion just kind of oozing into that training session.
Yeah, I think Pauline's in her element back on a pitch. I think we've all probably had enough of Zoom and online meetings and things over the past 12 months and beyond. So yeah, you can see that's where she loves being, on the pitch with the players, and I'm sure the players are delighted to be back with each other and obviously back in at the Scottish national team set up.
I was just going to say that about the players. You can see how much they're enjoying it, because there's a real trajectory now for them. You can see players coming through the age ranks, and then there's the A squad, the women's A squad, probably where all of them would eventually want to end up. It just shows the importance of actually having that pathway.
Yeah, that's got to be the target for them all. These players will be looking up to an Erin Cuthbert that's come through those age groups and made it into the women's A and established herself, not just in the squad but in the team as one of our most important players, and the career that she's having sort of down south as well domestically. So those players will be looking at players like Erin that have been there and done it, and they'll have that ambition to make it through the pathway. And it's really important for our women's A squad that we do have that pipeline of talent coming through, because we want the women's team to be successful today, but also looking ahead to the future, we want it to establish ourselves as one of the top nations that are able to compete.
And especially, I mean, Pauline was also talking about just with COVID and the effect of it, losing out or kind of missing out on the 04 age group. I mean, how do you even bridge that gap now? How important is it to make sure that that doesn't happen again?
It's really tough because it was such an unprecedented situation. It just wasn't possible to get everyone onto a football pitch. So there were a lot of off-pitch programmes. I know clubs did similar things in terms of trying to keep some conditioning work and different programmes being sent out to players, but it's really difficult because as a football player you want to be on a football pitch and you want to be playing games, so that's really difficult. But we are looking within our strategy to try and help bridge that gap between sort of youth international level and senior international level. So in the women's game there's quite a big gap because you go from under 19 straight up to senior level. You don't have that 21s that the male game has, so we're looking at trying to bridge that gap, and we've committed in the strategy to develop a 23s programme that will hopefully give those young players that extra opportunity to stay involved in the international scene and programme for that bit longer, and hopefully it will give them that little bit more time to develop and be prepared to one day go into the women's A squad.
Is there a timeline of when you can maybe see that happening?
I think we're going to try and start to establish some activity as early as next year and build it up over the course of the next 3 and 4 years till we've got an established programme, but we'll certainly look next year to try and start to put some sort of activity in place.
And that's another incentive for these players to really work hard and play well with their teams to actually make it into that squad, like you say, to then bridge the gap at the top of the level. They'll know that if they can make the under-23s, it's more of an easier route into the A squad.
Yeah, it just gives them that extra opportunity. I think at that level, you want them to be playing best v best, and international level certainly will challenge them. But if you're only playing up to under-19s at the moment, it's a big ask for a player to go direct from under-19s into the women's A at this point in time. They'll go back to their club and they'll be developed and they'll definitely get those opportunities. But at the same time, if we can keep them connected to the national team and the performance programme within the Scottish FA for that little bit longer, hopefully it gives more players that chance to make that step into the women's A and to go in and to start performing immediately, and that's the plan.
You see it with what Pauline was saying in the feature there. One of her most important things is just making sure that the players enjoy it. And it's such a simple message, but actually it's so important because that's what it comes down to.
You know, sometimes we lose sight of that. People like me sitting with strategies and the things we want to do and the targets we want to achieve, but the reason behind it all is that I know when I played football how much joy and enjoyment I got out of it, and also the sort of people skills it helps you develop and the friends that you make along the way. And sometimes we need to stop and reflect, and Pauline's great at that. She really understands that sort of personal dynamic of it as well, and she would build the sessions absolutely to develop them as football players and set standards. There'll be no doubt about that, but at the same time, if you can build in that enjoyment, then they want to come back. And if you've got happy players, then hopefully you see that in their performances, that they enjoy being there and they enjoy playing together.
Because we can even see it there are no friends like your team friends.
Oh, definitely. You know, when I think back to the players I played with, we're still friends now, and we're still on WhatsApp groups and chats and things. There's definitely a dynamic that you can't really recreate anywhere else if you're in team sport and you play with your teammates, because you sometimes meet and come across people that maybe in your ordinary everyday life through school or other activities you wouldn't. So I think that's a unique dynamic when you get that camaraderie as a team, and that's something that we want to build. It's slightly harder at international level because the players don't always get together quite as often as you would in that weekly basis at club level, but if you can build that togetherness and spirit, then that goes a long way to sort of helping performances.
Now, another one that Pauline mentioned was working closely with Pedro Martinez-Losa, the new Scotland head coach. He's come into this role. There's obviously quite a lot to prepare and work towards and work on. How is he getting on?
He's got a busy schedule, that's for sure. Yeah, he's doing great. He's come in, he brings with him so much experience because he's just come from Bordeaux, who, you know, he qualified for the Champions League through their league position last year. So he's come in. He's got qualifiers in September, qualifiers in October, and again in November. So that's obviously his primary focus, is to make sure he's built his backroom team around him. He's got his schedule and his plan ready for these qualifiers to give us the best opportunity to perform and obviously get to the World Cup. But at the same time, he's also got a role of overseeing the performance programmes, and he'll interact really closely with Pauline MacDonald and Pauline Dhòmhnallach and what that looks like going forward, and also having a look at our sort of national performance programmes, how we develop and evolve them to make sure they complement the work that's been done at club level. And that's obviously going to be really important and a big part of his role. So yeah, to say he's busy is probably an understatement.
A big job, but is he feeling confident?
Yeah, he's a really confident guy. He comes across really well, very personable, but very focused as well on the sort of end goal, which is obviously getting results and getting us to a World Cup. But yeah, he's confident and he seems to be enjoying it so far.
Great, well, thank you very much. Glúis Lucy Ronald is t-Saoir for Glasgow women go Hibs. Achar á fata gus an roi January slia rash tarsin in h-Ungair iastid chun an Sean club eiche. A sin ar a bhí brún ria mun glúis go Hibs agus na dochas an heiche ar son a season haroin.
Glúis Lucy Ronald go Glasgow City aice seo, agus in cain aiche down farnach ro ball like a cassin.
At the start, it was more kind of, my brother played, so it was difficult for me to get into a team. So really I just went with my mum to his training. No matter the space available, I'd have a ball at my feet and I'd always be kicking a ball. But I don't think I'd joined a team until I was maybe 9 years old. I joined a boys team and I didn't last long there just due to his training getting in the way of mine. So I joined Glasgow City when I was 10. So I think we kind of got to the stage where we were like, right, I think maybe finding a girls team would be ideal. And really none of us knew much about women's football. It wasn't obviously my brother played, so we literally had no idea. And I can't remember how. I think my mum found that Glasgow City were the best team and thought, well, we might as well give it a go. And yeah, that's where it all started.
Cleich Lucy trona Jefa Ryan in Egg City, agus fain a skipper I can skip a Lysachi Kuchach. Chorta hula minute the Gumor.
I absolutely loved my time at Glasgow City. You know, I've met some of my best friends for life there, and I was there for such a long time. It was eight years by the end, and I absolutely loved it. You know, I think it's just a great club. A great reputation, and it was something I loved being a part of. And then getting the captain's armband towards the end of my Glasgow City career, it was such a massive honour, and I loved captaining the girls. You know, we really became quite a lot of the girls. You know, there was players that I'd played with since I started that we were still in the development team, and I think there was something really special about that. And I think we all felt, you know, we all knew each other so well as players and as people, and I think that's why we were so successful when it got to the development level as well.
Glúis Lucy go skipper Glasgow an ban, par a deach í enimachach mar skipper a club. Úlach éidir hí na bhuanach í mar cluichetar.
Yeah, it was amazing. I wasn't expecting it. Obviously, Craig had moved and then I'd went sort of with him and he'd said to me that he would like me to be the captain of Glasgow Women as well, and I was very surprised because obviously I was still one of the younger sort of players, but I feel like I kind of took it in my stride a wee bit, and I feel like it's been good to also captain in that environment where there was more senior players as well, and kind of learning in that environment as the captain was really good, and I was so grateful to Craig that he had that belief in me to go on and take that role in this new team. You know, you've got a huge responsibility on your shoulders of being the sort of leader of the team, and I think that's something that only developed me in confidence on and off the pitch. I think player and person, it's been really, really good, and yeah, I've managed to grow in the sort of role in the team.
Ystawr chud Lucy enam di cúnad ag Hibs, a cha iad asig Glasgow an ban é díasid, gus tuliach leis a gain.
Yeah, I'm so excited, so grateful for the opportunity that Dean's given me, and I've still got that where I can get game time under my belt this season, and I think it was really, towards the end of last season, it was really the best option for me. It was kind of the best of both worlds. I'm going into the Hibs environment where, again, top players to go and learn from. I think, again, as I said, this, likewise to Glasgow City, it's something you can't really buy it to go and play with these top players, and it was kind of the step that I needed. I felt like I needed that step in my career towards playing at the top level, and I think it was sort of getting the best of both worlds, you know, get to go and train with them once a week and learn from them, and also get used to the environment as well, and then I'm still getting to play every week with Glasgow Women and my teammates as well, so yeah, it was really the best option for me.
A skippin an ban ag Alba, tógal a horsta Iona Ballantyne an ban, agus haid misnach a horsta cluichetar an áca, a léit Lucy.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think the sort of difference from the World Cup, I think there was such a buzz around that, and it was amazing. I think since then there's been really a massive progression in Scottish women's football, and I think it can only be a good thing going forward, and it's great to see these players playing at a world stage. And you know, I remember being at Hampden for one of the qualifying games, and it was amazing. You know, the crowd was amazing, and I think that's something that's really important for young girls to be able to go and see and think, you know, look where I can get to, because quite a lot of these players will be playing at their clubs as well, you know, and I think it's great to see what you can achieve if you put your mind to it.
Sé tríoch mar cluichetar Ball-Coise professional in ceann uile ag Lucy.
I think future goals, you know, I would love to make it as a professional football player. I think especially now where you can see like the likes of Rangers and Celtic going professional, where you can see that it's here in Scotland now that those opportunities are there, obviously if you work hard enough. And I think for a long time football for me was seen very much as an enjoyment, a passion. You know, I didn't really see myself taking it, but recently it's more been, no, you know, I don't want to get to an age and regret not pushing myself to go there. So I think now my ambition is to go as far as I can in the game and see where I can go with it.
Fiona, what a lovely feature, and just so good to hear how enthusiastic and passionate Lucy is about football and women's football and just playing the game.
Yeah, she sounds like the type of player that just wants to play football, and she's just enjoyed it from the minute she started playing. And it's interesting to hear her speaking about wanting to be a professional, and that's something that maybe fairly recently she's just started to think about. And I think that's really important, that our young players have that ambition and just that opportunity, that they believe that that is something that they could do here in Scotland. And maybe before it was a bit of a pipe dream, or they thought they would have to leave the country, but I think now with the investment we've seen in Scotland, she could realistically consider that as something that she could do here in Scotland.
It is, like you say, it's amazing to see, and it has been such a huge change in just the past couple of years. But even since Lucy joining Glasgow City at the age of 10, she's now 19. Even in those 9 years, so much has changed and developed that probably maybe didn't even think could happen such a long time ago.
I know her journey will have been undoubtedly through some of those changes. So like the National Performance Leagues were only formed a number of years ago, and they were designed to help the best young players in the country play against the other best young players in the country. She will have been part of that. Also like the youth national performance programmes and things, she'll have been through all these evolutions and changes as they've happened, and it's nice that she's reaching that point in her career now that she wants to play football at a high level, but she also recognises that there's a potential there, that if she wants to do it as a career, then it's something she can focus and commit to, and it can be realistic for her.
Yeah, and she can actually do that now. And even it was so nice hearing her talk about watching Scotland playing at Hampden. I know we mentioned Hampden at the start of the show, but when you hear somebody like Lucy, who's been there, who's sat and watched the Scotland women's national team playing there, and she wants to do it too, I mean, for you, that must be so good to hear.
Yeah, the reaction to Hampden all round has been really positive. I think the women's national team obviously played Jamaica there pre-World Cup, and that was a phenomenal experience for them. It was busy, it was noisy, there was just a real positive atmosphere around the ground that night, and that's what we want to recreate. So if we can get people back in Hampden, back in the team, and it's noisy, and you were in a good position in the group, then I think it could be really exciting for everyone, and we just encourage everyone to get to Hampden and watch the games. But of course, if they can't, then they know where to find them on BBC Alba.
Absolutely. Well, how do you encourage people? How do you get back to that pre-COVID, to that Jamaica game? How do we get everyone involved to get there?
I think we're at that point already, because it's a fresh start. We're going into a new campaign, we've got a new home, we've got a new manager. We all want to see the team playing at the World Cup. I think having the base at Hampden and people knowing that that's the permanent home of the women's national team is really important. It makes it easier for people to plan, even from our side in terms of how we're distributing tickets. We can do it alongside the men's games and target the supporters clubs as well as the traditional women's football crowd. So I think all round it's a positive time to be involved, and we want people to come along and see our national team, because they're getting to see world-class players on their doorstep here in Scotland.
And just sticking with Scotland with this World Cup qualification, I know it is a tough group. Spain and Ukraine probably being the two games and the two teams which people would look at as being the toughest. How do you think Scotland will get on?
Yeah, I think in world football now you can't take any games lightly, so you're right, in terms of the seeding, those are the two teams that probably jump out and on paper is the most challenging games, but without sounding cliche, I think you do have to take it one window and one game at a time. So right now the team's focus will be on Hungary, and then it will quickly turn to the Faroes, and that's the way we need to approach it. But you're right, on paper it's a tough group, but we're also in one of the smaller groups. We're in a group of 5, which probably puts even more onus on those sort of key games, because there's less games in terms of making up the points and the difference. So it is a tough group, but we have to go into it confident, because we're a good team as well, and we believe in ourselves. So it's one that we should be excited about, the challenge.
How are you feeling about it? Are you feeling good? Do you think we're ready? We're going to do it?
Yeah, I've got that sort of nervous, excited feeling. You get that anticipation feeling when a new season starts or a new campaign. So no, I'm definitely on the edge of more excited and looking forward to seeing how the team performs, and really looking forward to seeing them playing at Hampden. I think that will be a really proud moment for the players, walking out in a qualifier at Hampden, knowing that that's where they're going to be playing their home games. So no, definitely on the side of excited and looking forward to it.
Good. Well, it is very exciting, like you've mentioned, and we will be following the whole campaign, all qualification, and hopefully you'll be back on the sofa and we can talk about actually being at the World Cup.
I hope so too.
Thank you for joining us this week, Fiona.
Thank you.
Wel, sin son program na heiche noch, Jan Cínseach go bhfuil se bh lent an BBC Alba ar YouTube son na program magéirigh ag t-seachdain aing. Agus nach díochaníoch me géna gaimicin dearbhaidh ag Alba in na Hungary agus na Helen in Farach ha Bheir ar BBC Alba. In nach cheachgain sé Hannah McCurdy via a-mach agus bí had a Lockhart Colorius in studio. Bí me sé rás na cean collegiaig son barascíalcha na Hill Sports na ban. Bhí sin sé bh náthúras.